members which are associate member, and if we go in details, of course, associate members are of course almost doubling the number of full members, but we also need to say that this year we will have also promotion of many of these associate members, and we also have a lot of these associate members who are already in the range of being full members soon. As we said already, these members basically are all devoted to CTO, PCI, do not have the need to upload the cases, but they have actually, from what we saw, a lot of experience, and we are uploading their cases also in a parallel registry which we are evaluating, and we are of course moving from this associate membership to full membership. So our club is very of course is paying attention to this quality of the numbers, but also the quality of the operators. And here we can see that geographically, Europe is very large, and we are glad to have all these people around Europe living with us and working with us. And we are really, you can see that there are also associate members outside from Europe. We have this data probably shown several times. They are not changing a lot. I will go very quickly, but we can say that among the 50 people who are participating as full member, the numbers are 2,500 approximately every year. What is interesting that most of the operators are using nowadays retrograde and antegrade approach. And this is something that, of course, tells you how important it is. And we saw it from the first few live cases that retrograde approach is important. We have this experience in our group that is reaching 35% of all our procedures. So out of 2,500 procedures, 35% are retrograde or antegrade procedure. But anyway, there is retrograde approach. And if we can see, the success is more or less stable during the years, and of course a little bit higher for antegrade and retrograde, but it's interesting that we are growing even for the retrograde approach. This is of course not also due to the technical skill, but also to the technical devices that are so friendly user in the hands of dedicated people as compared to before. And I would like to stress more technical part of it, going to the more recent year, 2014, 2015. And as you can see, the increased use of soft dual coil polymeric wires, which are reaching almost 50% to start, and almost 20% the Gaia wires to start. And in these regards, as we discussed before, Fielder XT still has almost 50% of the role, and of course the other remaining role is to double coil new composite structure, which is Fielder XTR and Fielder XTA. And according to the Gaia family, the second Gaia second is the most used ones, probably more than Gaia first. And it's interesting to see when the final wires cross the lesion that still 30% of the soft polymeric wires are getting through, and 25% are getting through with the, especially in this year, you can see 25% in the last year by Gaia second. And once again, if you see, the percentage of success is still with Fielder XT is probably more than others wires. And again, this last year, Gaia second is making more powerful wire to get across. We have also a similar selection of guiding catheter as previous year, but we have to show this year that we have more radial approach. It's going from 20 almost to 40% radial approach, and we saw it today, one of the retrograde approach done by radial approach, while contralateral injections still on the 70% roll. IVUS also is increasing during the last year, And we saw that overall is reaching 17%. This is also thanks to our members from the club that are using IVUS, and of course is usually especially used in retrograde approach rather than antegrade. Going to the procedural complication, we are glad that these are being below 0.5, except for, unfortunately, coronary perforation, that anyway we know how to deal nowadays with the new devices and safely for the patients and safely for the artery which are sealed in a more precise way, and also saying that these of course are mainly due to the fact that more retrograde approach have been performed. I would like to go now very quickly in these 2 years and showing to you that as you can see from these digits that the hybrid and retrograde only is increasing in the last year to 17%, almost 18%. And this is of course reducing the antegrade approach. But going more in details, I would like to show you that when we use antegrade approach, single wire is the most used technique, 74%, while in 2015 this is reaching almost 65%, because probably more step up, step down and parallel technique have been used antegradely. This is something very important because it tells you how is changing in 1 year the attitude of the club. If we go to the retrograde approach in 2014, again, you can see very high percentage of success, and as you can see, most of the time is either retrograde pure crossing or reverse cart. And this is making very important to us. Also in 2015, the same value, probably even more cart have been used during the last year. Then the last point is the hybrid approach. As we know, United States people are very fan of that, and also now Europeans are fan of that. I will show you 2014 data. Again, you can see that there is a part of success due to the fact that, of course, some is divided in antegrade, in the hybrid approach, and some in the retrograde. I will show you side by side once and then after the retrograde. So when we start the hybrid approach and then we are successful in the antegrade fashion, we have, you see, sometime we have single wire use in 2014, and then probably almost average similar data for parallel wire, step up, step down, and antegrade dissection re-entry fashion. When we go in 2015, more or less the same number for antegrade percentage of success, and you can see more use of parallel wire, step up, step down, and ADR. So this means that the antegrade in this hybrid approach probably is single wire use is going to be less. Then we go to the retrograde, of course, successful way when we use a hybrid approach. You can see it is almost the double of the antegrade. And once again, you can see that wire crossing and reverse cart are the most used ones in 2014, and even more again, reverse cart in 2015. Then, if we go to the characteristic of the JCTO score lesions, we can see there is no differences, and this is very important, of course, in the last 2 years. But as Klaus Reffert was showing us, there was a big step forward from 2006 when we started up to 2016. It's interesting to observe that basically revascularization strategies are changing according to JCTO score. And you can see that more complex is the lesion in terms of course of the JCTO score, more we use hybrid and retrograde only. And you can see that in 2015 it is even higher, this percentage of usage of hybrid and retrograde only. And this is, was again a demonstration today with the first 2 cases we had that this is true. And when we go to the conventional wire escalation, which many of the operators still like, and as compared to dissection reentry, of course 70% was used by this operator in 2014, but if we go 1 year later, this goes up to 53. So once again, influential from United States approach is getting in our data. Finally, if we go to the success, according to JCTO score, there is a trend, but this trend does not reflect the actual cutoff of these scores. And we must say at the end that most of the work should be done in this direction to identify those scores that are really very important for us to understanding the percentage of success, not only the time of crossing the lesion. In conclusion, number of CTO recognization increase in the last, we took it from the registry, the website, from 1,000 to 2,500, but also numbers of full members increase. Overall success is stable during the last 5 years. Retrograde procedures are basically growing from 2011, since we have new technologies, and now is reaching 35% last year. Complication, despite that, severe, are below 1.52%. And I would say that predictive scores could be applied to select the appropriate candidates for PCI among CTO patients and the appropriate strategy to use, and we probably see many of these in the future. But generally speaking, the higher the JCTO score, the greater the need for hybrid and retrograde approach, and the greater the use of dissection reentry techniques. Whatever is the techniques, wires, devices, it is important to understand that this direction is also thanks to American influences that, of course, in Europe are well taken. Thank you very much to all for your attention.